Hello and welcome to episode 1137 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Monday, February 6th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, good day, sir.
Good day to you. How you doing, my friend?
Doing quite well. Nice afternoon here. Beautiful weather. We love to give our weather updates. Obviously, it's in the afternoon, so we're not freezing the way we have been on some mornings. What's the afternoon weather been like over there? You guys getting decent weather?
Oh yeah, it's actually pretty nice right now. I'd say it's like mid 50s.
Nice. We're up to 70s.
Very sunny. If you're watching live, you can see the sun poking through my window and door.
It looks great. I got a blackout shade because the little half window up there during the summer can get pretty intense and fire this place up by 10, 12 degrees. And you guys know I like it hot, but I do have limits. I don't want to be sweltering. I'm not trying to sweat during the day. But more importantly, I had a new shirt come in today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful shirt. The Bronx Barkers with the little wiener dogs on it from RotoWear. I'm wearing a RotoWear shirt as well.
Yes, you are.
For those who are watching on the YouTube.
The baby Yoda with the Justin face. If you're familiar with RotoWear Justin face, you know what we're talking about. It's very adorable. And shouts to Kevin Rizzo and Penny Judge, the two wiener dogs represented here on this shirt. Got one for both Jen and I. We're matching today like a couple of dweebs. And I love that your daughter wanted your shirt. And you said, oh, well, baby, we got you one. And she said, oh, with daddy's face on it? No. I want one with my face on it. That's so funny. You might have to talk. You might have to talk to RotoWear and see what.
I might have to talk to Kenny about that and see what we can pull together. I mean, it's just as good as like my elder child who when they were like in elementary school thought I was famous because of the shirt. Like,
you are.
And they would wear Justin Mason shirts around their school and thinking like they were like designer type.
Like, what's up?
Yeah,
you guys know this, right? Y'all know this.
That's my dad. Like
that's my dad.
And everybody's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
No clue. None of our dads play fantasy baseball. You dweeb. But yeah, RotoWear, obviously, always doing free promo for them. We love them. They're the best. I also got the Miami Ace in the form of Miami Vice with my Sandy Alcantara.
Nice.
So I'm very, very excited to wear that one. But anyway, we're going to talk some pitching today. Not starting pitching yet. I'm finishing my projections. Everything will be done, locked, loaded by the Super Bowl. As you know, that's my official start of the season. So I put myself on that deadline. If I don't have everything done on Sunday, 10 lashes to my hands. But everything will be locked, loaded. My outfielders will be up. Probably, if you listen to this on Tuesday, they should already be up. Catchers will be done. Starting pitchers projections will be done by the Super Bowl. The articles might not be up yet. And then relief pitcher, I'll probably just do a ranking. I don't know if I'm going to deep dive anything. You even said you don't draft off the projection of them.
I did projections. So all of my projections are done. They will be up on the Patreon as of Monday after the Super Bowl as well. My rank's already up there and they're updated. I don't really draft off of projections. I may do like a ranking, but I probably actually what I'll do is some sort of like depth chart. Like, hey, these are
you mean for relievers, right? That you don't draft off projection.
Yeah, for relievers. So I'll probably do some sort of depth chart type thing where it says, hey, this is the guy. This is the guy who I think would be next up.
Yes.
And this is how confident. Like I'll probably do some sort of color coded system of like, hey, I feel confident about this guy keeping the job and this guy not. Because the hard part with relievers is depending on what league you draft in, the price is just massively different. Like, the price you have to pay in NFBC versus the price you have to pay in ESPN or versus like something like Tout Wars or, it's just so massively different that I don't think it's fair to kind of rank those guys based on any sort of dollar value or anything like that, because the dollar values change based on inflation of your own particular league. So I think you should know your own league.
Yes.
But I like when I do put my projections up there with all the dollar values, that'll just be for a generic league, right? So if you're new to a league, you can go, this is, what a generic number is. And then you can adjust it accordingly based on your league's format.
That's perfect. And I think you can say that about most positions where like, your league matters. but especially closers, right? How does your league attack closers? How do they value them? Do you do saves plus holds? Of course, that's going to change things too. So what I did last year was the chart where I had ace, they were blue, high stability was green, medium was yellow, and then unstable was of course red. And then I had a next up and a dark horse. So, similar type of thing that you've seen around the industry. And then I did a ranking 1 to 75 relievers. So that includes holds in there too. And I'll do that this year where I have a saves holds ranking for those of you, because I know those are becoming a lot more popular. But today
I'll do something like that as well.
Today we're going to talk about the AL and kind of go through and you'll talk about how you feel about their stability and where they're at and some of the next guys up. I do have 6 teams that do have 2 guys listed because those seem the most up in the air to me. But if there's a couple others here that I'm just eyeballing that we should definitely be talking about, like I like Carlos Estévez in LA, but I'm not going to pretend that he's unchallenged. And in Alex Lange in Detroit with Soto gone, yes, I like him as the front runner, but he's not unchallenged either. So we'll talk about it, but we're going to go in alphabetical order by division. So we will start in the AL East, go Baltimore to Toronto, then Cleveland to Minnesota, Houston to Texas. So let's start in the East. Baltimore, the Mountain. Felix Bautista took over when Jorge López left last year, and they didn't miss a beat because López, of course, had that huge breakout first half with them. We'll talk to him when we get to Minnesota. And Bautista took the role over and was an absolute monster. Wound up with 15 saves, 2.19 ERA, 0.93 whip, and 88 strikeouts in 65 2/3. Absolute badass. The 28-year-old righty looks like he should be the unchallenged guy. Now, he's like your standard reliever where he does have some command issues, but everything I'm seeing here lines him up as a top 10 guy for me. Am I too high on Felix Bautista?
You might be too low, to be quite honest.
Okay.
And I'm kind of jumping on the bandwagon a little late. You were a big fan of his last year during the season and grabbed shares of him kind of everywhere. I was kind of temperate on him. I was like, oh no, top 10 seems about right. Kind of coming in draft season. And then I sat down with Alex Fast for the Friends Fantasy Benefits Orioles preview. And he was talking about that Bautista, and I don't want to misquote him, but I believe he said that if you look by Stuff Plus, he's got like 2 top 10 pitches or something like that.
I can believe that.
And I was like, whoa, that's really, really interesting. I didn't realize just how nasty his stuff was. And he brought the walk rate down last year. The home run rate's always been good. That park also protects him with the home run rate a little bit as well. So, I like Bautista a lot. I think he's going a little bit underdrafted if we're talking like NFBC ADP. I think the only thing that holds him back is how good are the Orioles actually going to be this year. It's really kind of hard to tell. They didn't make any real major additions other than Kyle Gibson. Yeah,
and so I think they're feeling like addition is coming via growth, which I get. I understand that they could have gone out there and made a big move. I think it would have been really interesting for them to go get a big shortstop, put Gunnar Henderson over at third. But I don't blame them for not. I don't think that they failed the offseason because of it. But they're hoping that a full season of Adley, a full season of Gunnar, more Cedric, more of the same for Cedric and Santander, maybe Mountcastle regaining some of the home run prowess.
Grayson Rodriguez coming up.
Grayson Rodriguez. Hall, Yep. And then, that continued development of their pitching staff too. I think Bradish is probably the best one there, in my opinion, at least. But Bradish, Tyler Wells, Austin Voth, all 3 of them could have some. Dean Kramer, I don't want to leave him out. But yeah, Gibson and Cole Irvin were the really only big pickups. But I still think they're a solid team. So even if they do fall back a bit, they won 83 games last year. Let's say they flip it, they go 79 and 83 this year. Bautista can still get 25, 30 saves. I absolutely believe that. So I have him high. I like him. He's RP8 off the board. I got no problem with that. I would be taking him as high as, you said, might be low just saying he's a top 10. I can get up maybe as high as 5 or 6 because we see here in the AL, RP6 is listed. If you see here there in the AL West, I think I like Bautista better than that guy. I mean, I'll just say who it is, Ryan Presley. I think I do.
I think the only thing you question with that is just how good Houston is and how many opportunities that he's
the raw saves versus the talent of the pitcher. That's a good call.
So I think that's the only real kind of difference between the two where I go, okay, I might take Presley, but you can typically get Bautista cheaper than Presley. Presley's going off the board around pick 60. Bautista going off the board about 10 to 15 picks later. So like you can usually wait around and then get Bautista the next round. And I think that's what I'm going to end up doing most of the time.
I think so too. Curious your thoughts on this guy for sure. Boston's had a really interesting offseason, and I put interesting there so that I didn't say anything mean because I'm trying to be nice today. And Kenley Jansen was a part of it. And look, I can't pretend he's bad because he's certainly not. He had 41 saves last year. I want to say that might have led the league, if I'm remembering correctly. It was certainly up there. Yeah, it led the National League. 64 innings of a 338 and a 105 ERA whip combo. I can't find anything that says he's bad, but is he still very good? I don't know. 1.1 homer 9 has me a bit concerned. Kenley Jansen did well in Atlanta, but he's going to Boston. He'll be 35. He's had that persistent heart issue that we never know when it's going to flare up. Hard to blame him for that. That's just something that he's dealing with, but it is part of the equation. How do you feel about Kenley Jansen going to Boston?
I mean, I feel pretty good about him. I feel like he is the last of like the really safe closers, or one of the last. I think you throw Bednar in that too, but like Bednar's got questions about the team.
He's got major team problems. Yeah.
And then like, is he going to get traded at some point? I mean, the amount of money amount of things teams will give up for relievers with control, especially when you've got teams like the Dodgers who do not have a set closer right now. You would think that he potentially could get traded, and then is he the closer in his next situation? I think he would be, but Jansen, I think, is kind of a very unattractive but kind of stable entity. Like he's no longer the elite guy that he used to be. He's not a top 3 closer or anything like that. But if he finishes with, I don't know, top 3 numbers in terms of saves this year, I would not be surprised.
I wouldn't either. I really wouldn't.
In spite of the fact that I don't think the Red Sox are very good, and they may actually be the worst team in that division.
No, I agree with all that, and that's what gives me some of the trepidation. But then, like I said, I keep looking at the numbers, and I'm like, he's still very good. And it does get dire at closer pretty quickly. And so if you look at Kenley Jansen as that life raft before it jumps down a level or two, I totally get that. And so maybe it's the principle of rather be a year early than a year late. And so if you jump off this year and he puts up another 37, 38 saves, you say, okay, I get it. And then if in 24 he has, 17 saves, loses the job, and those of us that weren't huge fans of him say, this is what we thought was going to happen last year, then that principle comes out to be the case of the year early instead of year late. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with him. And so I'm trying not to get him, but I'm not going to avoid him. And if he is that last guy there, and I'm saying, okay, before it's either Jansen or I jump down a tier or two, I'm probably going to wind up with him. I'm not going to let my bias play too hard there, because I do want somebody who's going to have if Kenley Jansen's healthy, he is their closer unless he just melts down.
Especially like when we start talking about like the next guy on the list, like I think it's a really good transition.
It's perfect.
Is especially when we're talking about a fab league where I can't because with Kenley, with the next guy let's
bring him in. Yeah, Clay Holmes with the Yankees.
I feel like I don't know I feel like he should be the closer. I feel like he probably will be the closer to start, but I also feel like there's a lot of injury issues. There's a lot of other capable guys in that bullpen. I also could see the Yankees be a team that goes after a guy like David Bednar or
Scott Barlow we talked about with the
Scott
Chapman
Barlow
pickup.
And so like if I roster Clay Holmes, I feel like I have to roster the entire Yankees bullpen in a draft champions. And you can't do that in a fab league. So going back to Kenley Jansen, I'd much rather pay up a little bit more for him than a guy like Clay Holmes, because I know for sure he is the guy as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, this was a perfect transition to talk about that jump, because Clay Holmes is the 12th reliever off the board, and you're facing getting somebody like that with the uncertainty, because we don't know if he is the guy yet. It's a safe assumption based on who's there and the talent that he displayed last year, but they haven't come out and said, signed, sealed, delivered, it's Clay Holmes. But he was brilliant. He really, really was. 63 and 2/3. He ended up with 20 saves. Obviously didn't have the job all year, but a 2.54 ERA and a 102 whip. He's really been excellent since getting to New York. The 28 innings that he had with them in 2001 were even better. 161, 079 on the ERA and whip. So they've really turned him into a god. They saw something a little bit raw from Pittsburgh. They got him over there, and he has just, boom, shot off to another level. But had some injury issues, like you said. There's
Mhm.
guys lurking there that if Jonathan Loizaga got himself back together, would you be surprised if he took over the job? No. And so there is some of that uncertainty there, but he's really, really good. And I do think, I will say this, I think the market is pricing him fairly, because it would be easy for the market to just have Clay Holmes at the 7th, 8th reliever because he's the perceived Yankees guy, and it wouldn't have surprised me. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that he's 12, which is not a terrible price for Holmes.
Yeah, it's not a terrible price, and I have drafted him in a couple DCs already. But like I said, then I feel like I have to like go get Loizaga,
At least Loizaga,
maybe even Tommy Kenley,
Mhm.
Rob Marciano. I can't pronounce his name.
Marinaccio, I believe.
Marinaccio. I talked about him with Sammy from the Catchers podcast.
Mhm.
And
He missed a ton of bats last year, Ron
and
did.
so I've been able to get him in like the 50th round of draft and hold leagues. So like just taking dart throws, but I feel like, especially with the injury issue last year, I just am a little bit scared about Clay Holmes.
Mhm.
And like I said, then like, if the Yankees decide they want to upgrade, which I'm sure they will at some point, the easiest place for them to upgrade is in that bullpen, is to just bring in a shutdown closer and make Clay Holmes like an electric setup guy.
Yep.
And just right back in that bullpen. So I'm just a little worried about that.
He goes right back to being a fireman, and there's no harm, no foul there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I get that too, and that is a concern I share with Clay Holmes. I tell you what, man, I'm pretty excited about this next guy, especially at the price, and I'm encouraged by the signing of Pete Fairbanks by Tampa Bay. I think showing that confidence in there has to give us some confidence that he's the dude too. And we've seen them anoint dudes before, right? Like we know the turmoil, or not even turmoil, but just the lack of certainty that can happen in a Rays bullpen. They've shown it over multiple years, but at different times they've had guys that are the dude too, where they don't get every single solitary save, but they get more than the lion's share. They get perfectly, they miss 10% of them. They get 90% of them, or even 85% of them, which is still wonderful, especially on a quality team. I think Fairbanks is going to be that guy if he's healthy. I think his health is a bigger concern, and it's a fair concern. Don't get me wrong, but he's RP 21, and that feels like a steal right now, because with that deal, I think he's the dude. And even though he's never had more than 8 career saves, which was last year, 5 the year before, it was only 24 innings. It was a 44% K rate, 3% walk rate, utter insanity with his stuff. I'm buying in because I think the market has fairly priced him, and more than fairly priced him, has underpriced him to where I can take on that injury risk with Pete Fairbanks, and he's not all the eggs in one basket. Do you share the same interest in Pete Fairbanks, or do you remain nervous because of the Rays history and his injury?
Yeah, I mean, the combination of the Rays history and Pete Fairbanks' history have me just wanting to fade that whole situation. The last 2 seasons, they haven't had any individual reliever get 15 saves.
But they haven't had a healthy Pete Fairbanks either.
Yeah. Do they have one now? Like I
don't know, but that's fully covered in the price, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not, how I say, I don't want to double count that. They let Emilio Pagan get 20 saves. And I say that derisively because Emilio Pagan is a home run machine. He should never be closing. And he got 20 saves for them back in 2019.
I mean, they got like Alex Colomé and Fernando Rodney.
I was going to say, Colomé was the guy for a moment too. Like he had multiple seasons and he got too expensive. They've committed to Fairbanks as the dude. They gave him a contract. And so they must be happy enough with his medicals to believe that he can do something. It's only $4 million a year. Let's not pretend that they're paying him over the top. But for Tampa Bay, that is something. And I think that is a punched ticket that when he's healthy, he's the dude. And so
I think there's just a non-zero chance that anybody on this team has 25 saves. And that
I can't disagree with that.
And that to me just doesn't make it worth my time.
It takes a Fairbanks injury, I think, for that to happen.
Or an injury to a guy like Jason Adam, or one of the guys behind him for him to make sure he's getting all of the role. So I'm just staying away from it.
I think you're missing a gem there. He's
there's just too many guys after him that I feel a lot more confident they are getting a fair share of the role. And
Really?
for that
Okay,
reason, I'm out. Yeah.
we'll talk,
We're
we'll talk about some of those
those
dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of those dudes, and I'm curious who you think, because I'm sold on Fairbanks. Fairbanks' talent. Let's talk Toronto. Jordan Romano, he's one of the lockdowns. He's RP number 4. Not a whole lot to say here. I think it's obviously his job, unquestioned, and I think he's a monster. 211, 102 whip last year, ERA whip combo, 73 strikeouts in 64 innings, 36 saves. The 30-year-old is a stud. The only thing he's ever really had is some injury issues himself, but he's made it 60-plus innings each of the last 2 years. Do you have any concerns about Romano that keep you from drafting him and paying the full price this year at RP4?
No, I just haven't ended up with him anywhere yet.
Me neither. Even though I do like him, I haven't landed on him, as they say.
I came really close in this most recent draft that I'm in to
it was
getting
a fun
him.
draft that you did, by the way.
Yeah, it's we're 20 rounds in. I really like my team, even though it's not like perfectly constructed in the way that I thought it would be. But he almost fell to me in the 4th round, and I got really, really excited. And I ended up with Shane McClanahan instead, because he went about 3 picks ahead of me, which is a pretty fine consolation prize.
I would say so.
Yeah, especially because I think McClanahan probably should be going in the 3rd round. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with him. I guess there's a little bit of injury concern. He's not missed like large chunks of time or anything, but he just always seems to have the scariest sounding injury.
Right? You think like it's done, it's over.
Yeah.
Rush out and get whoever's.
Go pick up Julian Merriweather or go pick up Yimi
get
Garcia.
Anthony Bass, dude. They're gonna have to put him back in the role.
Romano is done. And then like 2 or 3 days later, after just getting the weekend off, he's like fine.
Yeah.
And so like I don't think he has that much more injury risk than just about any other pitcher at this point. And so, yeah, I have no problem where he's going as kind of a top 5 closer.
Yep. 4th off the board, pick 57. I'm willing to pay that. It is full freight, but you're getting a premium guy for it. All right, let's shift over to the AL Central. This is one of the best guys out there as well, Emmanuel Clase. He's RP number 2, behind only Edwin Diaz, and even sometimes then he does go ahead of him on occasion. Diaz goes pick 30 generally, and Clase's pick 34, so they're right next to each other. Do you agree with him as a top 2 guy, and are you paying the toll on Clase?
Yeah, I mean, I took Edwin Diaz in, kind of middle of the 2nd round in this draft that I'm in, and I definitely debated taking Clase instead. I think they are just about interchangeable. I think they're kind of 1A, 1B, Clase and Diaz. So, yeah, no problem taking him early where he's going. I think he's absolutely elite. I think the Guardians are going to still be the best team in that division, or at least be in competition for winning that division. So, I've got no real concerns about him at all.
No, and we don't have to belabor the point on guys like this because there's just not a whole lot to say. But I've already got him on 2 teams, including a Gladiator, where I was happy to take him. I saw where everything was going with the closers, and I said, you know what, I'm going to get me a goodie, and I went with Clase and locked him up. All right, let's continue on then, because it gets a lot more tumultuous throughout the rest of the division for sure. There's some good guys, but there's some uncertainty. Obviously, this is a sad scenario for why it's uncertain. And of course, we'll put the standard caveat out there. We are wishing Liam Hendriks the best. Cannot wait till he gets back. I know that he will fight back and be back on the mound and hopefully beasting and feasting in no time. But in the interim, there's going to have to be somebody else for the White Sox. I think the market, I know the market is leaning toward Kendall Graveman. Is my boy Reynaldo getting short shrift, though? Kendall Graveman's RP 26. Reynaldo is RP 46. Where are you going with the White Sox pen, or are you not touching it at all? What's your read on?
No, I think this is one of the situations where I think I would rather have Kendall Graveman than Pete Fairbanks. I think Graveman is the dude. I know like Reynaldo López has always had his stands and stuff like that, and I've always been
Do you know any of those guys?
I do. I remember having an argument with him, with one of them about that Reynaldo López was not a starter long term. I think I may have won that.
I don't think that guy would. Nah.
Yeah.
I think I know the guy you're talking about. He's never lost an argument about Reynaldo López. So anyway, you're thinking of somebody else probably.
I might be, yeah. So Reynaldo López is a really, really good reliever. I think they found a really good role for him, but I think they also want to keep him available for multi-inning stints. So
and I think I agree there, by the way. Just so we're clear that I'm playing it up. I'm a huge Reynaldo guy. I'll take him at the RP 46. I do agree with Justin that Kendall Graveman is the dude, and he's the one I'd be going for. He has limited closing experience, but he does have some closing experience, and he's the more dominant guy too.
Yeah, I think the guy to watch out for if you're looking for a handcuff is actually Aaron Bummer.
The lefty.
Yeah, he's really electric. They have Diekman there as a guy who can be like their main lefty guy if they decide to move Bummer into the rotation. And Graveman's had injury issues and ineffectiveness issues, off and on, last year and throughout his career. So if he were to lose this job, I think it might actually go to Bummer next. That being said, I think Graveman's the dude, and I think I would much rather have him over Pete Fairbanks.
Could you just stop trying to shit on Pete Fairbanks? My God.
Yeah.
I would still rather take Pete Fairbanks. Can I tell you who could be interesting?
Board bet. More saves this year.
Oh, yeah.
Kendall Graveman versus
Absolutely.
Pete Fairbanks.
Lock it. Minimum.
As we were talking, I was bringing up the board bet thing for this one.
What do we say? Like minimum, how many innings each?
No minimum. Just more
no injury caveat for either? Okay, fine. I'll take it.
Because that's part of the price.
But fine. You're right. Fine. I'll take it. That's the only way you beat me. That's the only way you beat me.
I've gotten some really, really bad bets already on the board, so I feel like
the only way you beat me is if Fairbanks gets hurt. And I like Graveman. This is not an anti-Graveman take; it's a pro Fairbanks take. You know who I'm keeping an eye out for though, and I did draft in a couple DCs. Garrett Crochet. You talk about another lefty.
Yeah.
And I will say this though, as far as him being the closer, they have said that they're going to bring him back as a multi-inning reliever, which does make sense. And I think that that's a great fit for him. And if you got Reynaldo who can go 2, and you got Crochet who can go 2, both of them can go 2 to 3 at a time.
Crochet's not going to be ready though till mid-season.
Not for day. I think before mid-season.
He got his Tommy John in April.
Yeah, so I think late May, early June.
Maybe. I haven't seen any updates, but
yeah, I haven't necessarily either. It says the latest update was in November. It says expected to contribute at some point in May or June of next season. So
okay.
And it could push though, right? It only takes one little thing, and then all of a sudden it's the All-Star break, right? Because if it's June 28th, they say, we'll just make it till the All-Star break, something like that. So don't go get him in every league. I only took him in DCs right now, but keep an eye on Garrett Crochet as an interesting reliever. But yeah, Kendall Graveman, I think he is the dude to go for with the White Sox. Reynaldo, López, and Aaron Bummer have some intrigue. Detroit cleared out the spot with Gregory Soto being traded. I thought that was a really sharp trade. There's no real reason for them to keep a locked-in closer when they can get 2 offensive pieces, even if Veerling, actually 3, because I like Donnie Sands as a backup catcher too. But Veerling and Maton might not become much of anything, but they're better to have than having a closer. Like, who cares? We can get a different all-star. I know he's been the Tigers all-star for like 12 straight years or some shit. The market is buying Alex Lange, without a doubt. He's RP 24 off the board this month, January in DCs. Do you agree with Alex Lange as the guy? Are you interested? And who is the handcuff? Those are 3 separate questions. Take them in order, please.
I'm absolutely on board with the market. I think he is the guy, at least to start the season. He is electric on the mound. Like he's just really
great season.
Yeah, I mean, I think just overshadowed kind of by the fact that
you don't have to say anything mean.
The Tigers suck.
You don't have to. I knew you're going. You didn't have to say that.
I think he's honestly a little bit better version of Gregory Soto. I know right-handed, but he's going to walk guys, but he doesn't give up home runs, and he strikes everybody out. I really, really like Alex Lange a lot. Another guy that is going after Fairbanks that I would take in front of Fairbanks. So if you want to board that one,
put him on there too. Let's do separate ones.
I'm loading up against Fairbanks. So
God, you really are. You're really asking for trouble there. Or you're just asking for him to get. You're gonna Nancy Kerrigan him.
This is gonna be my Mike Zunino, is what it is. This will be the year that not only does Fairbanks stay healthy, but he gets like 50 saves and throws like 80 innings and then 9 innings next year. Oh man, awful. I love it.
So
I like Lange a lot. I just think he ADP is obviously rising, but that's what you expect. Yeah.
It's like RP24. You're not paying some crazy premium for Alex Lange as the Detroit closer. And again, I don't expect the team to be great this year. He can still get 30 saves though. Gregory Soto's done it, and the Tigers have been shit for a long time now. So he's picked 266. You're just not paying a premium for Alex Lange. Who's your handcuff there if you're locking him up?
I guess it's Jose Cisneros.
I
think the backup is not on this team at the moment.
I think I agree with that.
I think
I agree with that.
They bring back like a Michael Fulmer or an Andrew Chafin or something like that. But right now, especially because like they need a lefty, they need to add a lefty to this bullpen. So
Chafin opted out though, so they either have to give him more money or he just didn't like being there.
Which maybe either. Yeah. So it's cold there. So
if he's like me, he looks more like you got the burly guy with that big hair and the mustache. Andrew Chafin strikes me as somebody who loves when it's cold.
Maybe
so I could be misreading. I'm profiling here a little bit.
You've been dealing with frozen temperatures. How do you like frozen temperatures on your mustache?
I despise it.
Yeah, so
I absolutely despise it.
Because I'm a facial hair guy too, obviously, right? But I do not like when my beard freezes. No, that is annoying.
It's not great. I'm like,
it keeps your face warm, but it doesn't feel good.
I can't get a beard, so I go with the mustache. And it was the first time I had it like actually kind of crunchy. I was like, this really sucks.
Yeah, this
is very stupid. All right, over to KC. We talked a bit about this when Aroldis Chapman signed, so we won't go too in depth here. But Scott Barlow is the guy and actually has a lot of fantasy interest. And now I think the people that have heavily drafted him in draft champion season are probably crapping themselves, especially, or in gladiator season, especially because you can't do anything about that anymore. Now that Chapman comes into the mix, Barlow's RP 14, Chapman's RP 34. Where are you now with Barlow and Chapman? Are you still drafting Barlow? Are you handcuffing him? Are you going for Chapman as the lottery ticket? I mean, because let's be clear, we know the name, but he was terrible last year. 18% K rate, only 18% walk rate, only a 27% K rate, which is fine for Johnny 2 cents, but it's not good for Aroldis Chapman. Yeah, like that is not a good rate for him. So he was way down from what he's at. He's going to be 35. Where do you stand on this KC situation?
I keep waiting for them to trade Barlow. Like, I feel like they should be trading Barlow, especially if they're trading all these other pieces, and then they'll trade Chapman if they can rehab his value a little bit. And so for that reason alone, like, I'm kind of just staying away from this situation until we have either some sort of resolution or the team comes out and says, hey, no, we're starting the year with both these guys, and this is the dude in the night. And so then I'll feel a lot more comfortable about a guy like Barlow or even a guy like Chapman. But like in this draft, like Barlow kept falling and falling and falling. Man. And I just avoided it. He ended up going in the back end of the 10th round at so pick 150, which I felt like was a really, really good value, especially in draft champions where relievers tend to go higher. So I'm staying away from it until I have more information, especially because, I mentioned this recently. I don't know, can't remember which podcast. It might have been Sleeping Blessed. But I said, like, if I'm going to invest in a bad closer situation, or a jumbled closer situation, I want to be on a good team, not a bad team.
Yes, exactly.
A bad team. Like, if they end up sharing this role, am I going to care about 30 shared saves that each one might get 13? Like, no, I don't.
Yeah, 13 apiece, and then 4 sprinkled amongst Dylan Coleman, Amir Garrett, and Josh Stoma. I get that. I can make a case on how their offense breaks out. I can't get there with the rotation, and I know they didn't have exactly a great rotation when they were good last time. Because where I'm going with this is like, are they trying to rebuild a great bullpen to go with a decent lineup, and then all of a sudden they're decent again? That rotation, even though, again, it wasn't great, it was still better than what we're seeing here with Yordani Ventura, rest in peace, Rodano Ventura, Ensign Volquez, Danny Duffy, Johnny Cueto. Guthrie and Chris Young were a lot like, Zach Greinke and Jordan Lyles, guys that they have now. But I like Singer, but it's a bunch of Jeremy Guthries, really, with Greinke, Lyles, Yarbrough, and Keller.
I don't understand what they're doing. Like, and I ran about this when Jason and I talked about Greinke signing. Like I don't get it. Like, you're blocking Daniel Lynch.
Yes.
Who Yeah, I know he wasn't great last year, but
But he
like,
showed some flashes.
he showed flashes, and he's a top prospect in terms of his pedigree. They also have other guys like in the minor leagues where I go, like Jonathan Heasley should get a shot, right? Like
They have 8 guys on their
Max
40.
Castillo, like
Yes.
what do you Jackson
It,
Kowar? Like who cares if you're gonna be bad with
Bubich.
the
Let Tit Scratch take a shot. You know, they got 8 guys on their 40 man that we currently have penciled into AAA. What are you doing? That's too much.
Like I just don't understand the purpose of signing all these old innings eaters types that like these guys won't get you much in the trade market. Like
No.
no one's trading for Zach Greinke at the trade deadline at this
No, you're
point.
getting
Like,
he probably wouldn't even be the one to be traded. Like Yarbrough, Lyles, you know, they're like you get at best if they're popping off, you get like a C+ prospect at best for one of those guys. I understand Lyles or Yarbrough, but both when you have some starting depth of intrigue at least.
and didn't they give them both 2-year deals? Like
I think so.
like,
I think so. Like
I just don't understand it. Like
what are we doing?
So like so going back to Barlow and Chapman, I don't trust the organization like at all.
Yeah.
Like so until there's some clarity, I'm just staying away.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. And as much as I had some excitement for Barlow coming in, this Chapman thing puts a kink in it, and I'm passing for now because of the bad team concept that you said there, and I just don't know that they're that good. Minnesota, Jhoan Durán and Jorge López, 2 very capable guys. You know, kind of the situation that is envious, but this is probably what you're talking about, where they are 2 good guys. They could split, but if you took the split here, this is a pretty quality team. You can envision them winning, 85. I guess they only won 78 last year. They kind of fell off, but I can envision them winning mid-80s games. This is a pretty good team, and if they can stay healthy, if they get Lopez, Gray, and Molly and Maeda, I know there's 4 guys with some health concerns, but if they get some dudes to stay healthy here, I can see how they have a good team. Who do you lean towards on Durán versus Lopez? I will tell you that Durán is RP 16 because he's so good. Even if he's not the closer, I think people want to have him on their team, even if it's not a holds league. And then Lopez is RP 22. He had that huge breakout with Baltimore, and then he did come back to the pack, but there were a couple of really negative outings that kind of boosted his numbers. So I don't know if it was just regression or if there was some bad luck there with Lopez. Where do you lean in the Minnesota bullpen?
I think I lean towards Lopez just because he's cheaper.
You take the discount, yeah.
Yeah, I think these guys split this job. I think Durán is definitely the better reliever. In a perfect world, he would be the shutdown 9th inning guy. But they like using him in multi-inning splits. They like using him in high leverage situations, and so there are going to be plenty of times where there's 2 men on with 2 outs in the 7th. And they go, we're going to bring him in, and then we'll save Lopez for the 9th. And I think enough of that split will be like, hey, maybe both these guys end up with like 18 saves or something like that.
No, I think that's definitely going to happen, and I agree because, Durán still has some like multi-inning capability that you can really use him as that fireman there, and just you don't have to save him for the 9th every time. The heart of the order might come up in the 7th with a runner on already. You're going to do it on there because you've got Lopez protecting in the back. And I think if Lopez is still throwing 100-mile-an-hour sinkers, then I'm not too worried about it. Like I said, he did have a 2/3 of an inning, 4 runs against Cleveland. He had a rough September where he gave up 8 runs, and that's going to sink you no matter what. It was over the course of 4 outings, and that counts. I'm not saying that doesn't count or anything like that. I'm just saying I don't think he's a piece of crap. I don't think he was a fluke in Baltimore.
No, not at all.
All right, let's move out west then. Talk about Ryan Pressly. He is RP number 6. He's getting up there in age, and he seems to have kind of an injury every year. At 34 next year, we're not seeing the huge save totals. He did get 33 this year. He finally eclipsed 30. And I guess he's only been a full-time closer for 2 years. So I shouldn't act like he's had all these opportunities to get 30-plus saves and hasn't been able to do it. But he got 26 and 21 and then 33 this past year. Like I said, there's usually an injury. What's interesting is he went from 64 to 48 innings, but added 7 saves. So he was super effective in the 48 innings you got. Brilliant ERA, brilliant whip. He's wonderful. Do you fully trust him as RP6? Ryan Pressly.
No, I don't trust him as the RP6 just because of the injuries. I feel like if you draft him, you have to draft Rafael Montero.
Yeah.
Which means you're kind of wasting a roster spot. on the handcuff, and there are a lot of formats in which that is just not feasible. So, like if you're running in an ESPN or a Yahoo league with 3 reserve spots, like you can't waste that on the next closer, to the guy who's going to save your closer if your closer gets injured. So
yeah, you don't usually run handcuffs in formats like that.
For me, like if I don't get one of the top 5, I'm probably waiting a little bit before I get my next closer. I'll
get
wait.
Pete Fairbanks.
Yeah, more like Bednar or Alexis Diaz. But yeah, Pete Fairbanks is in there if he's the 70th closer off the board.
Such a mean person. I don't know why you pick on me. Okay, so no, I think I get that too. And I've been a Presley guy these past couple of years. He served me well, so I'm not hating, but I think I am going to do the year early over year late principle here, where I am worried that because it has been consistently that lower half that's getting to him, and if it pops at age 34. I don't really want to be left holding the bag. In a deeper format where taking Montero can make some sense because I could use him as my 9th pitcher if I really wanted to. Okay, maybe I'm in. But in those other formats that you're talking about where it's a bit more shallow and you don't do handcuffs, I'm leaning away from Presley and probably looking elsewhere. Let's move out to LA with the Angels. And you talk about a late guy that's going. I mentioned him a bit earlier. Carlos Estévez, I think he's the dude. At least to get the opportunity to be the dude. We'll see if he can hold it. He's RP 30. There's also Jimmy Herget. There's a MVP vote getter, Ryan Tepera. How do we feel about the Angels situation panning out this year?
I feel like the contract means Estévez is likely to get the first.
Precisely where I come out with it. Yep.
That being said, like I know a lot of people are like, oh, look at like what he was on the road, like in Colorado, like. People need to stop doing that. That's not how it works. You don't get to just like keep your road work when you leave Colorado. You meet somewhere halfway. I think Jeff Zimmerman said like multiply the
road work times 2 plus the home. Is that what he does?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like that isn't like a really good reliever when you do that with him.
That's fair because the homework probably really hurts him, right?
Yeah, he had a 3.51 ERA at home. It wasn't like he was on the road. He wasn't elite on the road by any stretch of the imagination. So, like I do think there's a lot more risk than maybe other people do. And Herget, I think, is interesting as kind of the handcuff guy. But if I'm drafting one Angels reliever, it is probably Estévez, and then I'm just hoping for the best. But this is like closer 3 territory. I don't think you want him as your closer 2.
No, I don't think you do either. And I'm big on Estévez. I would consider myself big on him, and I still don't want him as my RP2 at all. You want him to be 3, maybe even 4 if you're really loading up there. You can take the glitch, Jimmy Herget there. Love the way he looks out there. It's another body comp of mine. Is lean and lanky, and he's got the glasses, so he's adding extra to the body comp out there. And he did really well last year. 2.48 ERA, 0.91 WHIP in 69 innings. Very nice with 9 saves and 63 strikeouts. Not super overpowering, but got the job done. I don't mind handcuffing them. They're both quite cheap. RP 30, like I mentioned, for Estévez, RP 43 for Herget. So if you are playing the speculation game late and you're not getting in on the Clases and the Bautistas and even the Holmes is at RP 12, if you want to play the late game, as some people do, they don't want to mess with the early closers, then LA could be a fun one for you because I'm getting suckered again, Justin. I think this team could be good. They'll find a way to screw it up.
Me too.
I want to believe.
Remember, I picked them to win the division last year.
I picked them to win the World Series.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I'm getting.
We're both ready to get hurt again. So, but yeah, don't get too aggressive on Estévez. He still has something to prove, but there is some interesting talent there. Let's go to Oakland and talk about Trevor May as the primary guy. He signed a deal there, RP 39. Big fan of his, full disclosure. We're homies. So, I'm biased toward him. I got to be honest about that. Domingo Acevedo is probably kind of that number 2 guy because they're apparently moving RJ Puck back to the rotation, which I want to work so badly, but I am terrified for him just because of all the injury tumult that he's gone through. I'm just nervous, but I hope it works because AJ Puck's been a favorite since he was a prospect, and I just want it to be good. So Domingo Acevedo is probably that number 2 guy. He's RP 62. Are you messing with the Oakland bullpen at all? We know they're terrible, but do you like to get the guy in a shit bullpen? How do you feel about Oakland?
All right. So, I mean, I have to ask kind of a procedural question before I answer this.
Okay.
So, as the editor of Rotographs, do you actually read articles that you edit, or do you just edit them?
I don't edit yours. You edit your own.
I'm talking about Jeff Zimmerman's Minding the News, where he said that
son
Danny
of a bitch.
Jimenez is actually the leading candidate.
Okay, I forgot about
for the closing job.
I did forget about that. That's.
I think Trevor May makes a lot of sense because they signed him for money.
But that's not only, and that's a good lesson in it not being the end all be all, right? We use that a lot, but if a team's telling you the opposite, pay attention to them. Yeah, I did gloss over that. I will. And you know what? It's because I got so caught up on the AJ Puck will be shifted to the rotation that I just didn't read the rest. And it's literally the next line.
Yeah, exactly. When you introduced this topic, I think you called him RJ Puck, which kind of confused me a little bit. RJ? I have no idea. But that being said, like, yeah, I think I'm taking the shot on Danny Jimenez right now, just because he is extremely cheap right now. I'm actually
you gotta have like no cost.
590 ADP right now.
There you go.
The beginning of the year. So with his min pick being 365, max pick being 738. So yeah,
I don't even know what number RP that is. I'm just going to put his ADP on the sheet here.
Yeah. So he's going really, really, really cheap. I think that's the gamble, but I also think that I would not be surprised if this is split kind of between three guys. And now you're talking about 15 potential saves being split between three guys, because as much as I made some money last year, I made some money last year betting the under on Oakland wins. Another one of those bets that I won last year against you.
You beat me on that. Yep. I said they don't bottom out, and they bottomed out.
This could be the worst team ever in Major League Baseball.
It really could, dude. It's so bad.
And I'm not being hyperbolic. It is legitimately bad, to the point where I had booked Scott Jenstad to do the Oakland A's preview and then felt bad for him. So I recorded it ahead of time so we could have a different topic.
That's so funny. Like we're friends, man. I can't do that.
Yeah, I like him too much.
Yeah, the offense is so dreadful. I can make
and they traded away like their best pitching.
I know I can make a case for some of the pitching, but it can only get you so far, right?
But the hard part is, with no win potential as a starting pitcher there,
exactly,
you now have to be a 3-category stud.
Yep.
And there aren't any.
They're not studs, because even the guys I like Waldachuk, I still got some love for JP Sears. Shintaro Fujinami has some intrigue, but what are you really getting from them? None of them are strikeout monsters.
Yeah, Shintaro's going to have whip issues because he has control problems.
Exactly.
Blackburn
would have strikeout issues too, even if you buy in on what he did last year. Caprillion can't stay healthy. So yeah, I like Waldachuk. He could be the best, but what is the best Oakland starter? Listen,
it's probably Waldachuk, but I don't care.
Exactly. And Puck wouldn't go enough innings, because even if this does work, we're talking probably like 120 innings managed throughout the year.
If you want to waste 45 minutes, go listen to the Oakland A's preview on the Friends Fantasy.
You guys were able to get 45 minutes on it?
I don't know how me and Bruce Cagle Jr. did it, but it was. I hadn't thought about drinking in a really long time. Been sober for almost 18 years at this point, and I needed an A meeting after that. Yeah,
you call it. I'm in a bad spot.
Yeah, I had to call my sponsor and everything.
Yeah. Who are you drafting on? Just a quick tangent on offense. Who are you drafting, if anybody?
Seth Brown?
Ramon Laureano at pick 217?
Laureano, I'm way below Laureano in terms of the ADP versus my projections.
217 is pretty high. Are you in on Estuary Ruiz at 252? I'm nowhere near that, by the way.
I think you can make the argument, just because I think he can steal 30 bases.
He can, but with a 108 average, I don't believe in his hitting at all. What about we'll give him the catcher eligibility. He's UT right now.
He could be like Jorge Mateo-ish.
Yeah, he could. But that's about it. Shea Langoliers is UT only right now, so you have to draft him as such, but you're going to get that eligibility in a week. So are you drafting catcher eligible Shea Langoliers at 292?
I definitely would consider it.
Okay, so that's probably the one that you'd be interested in, or Seth Brown at pick 205. Okay, Seattle. This feels pretty much like Minnesota, right down to the fact that they have the best guy is probably the one who won't be the A closer, Andrés Muñoz, and then the secondary guy, Paul Sewald, probably going to get more of the saves, but he's just not quite as good. He's the Jorge López in this instance, and it's a quality team that I can see winning another. They won 90 last year. I can see another 85 plus this year. Do you see that similarly to the Minnesota situation, where it's a pretty close split, and you'd rather maybe take the guy who's a little bit cheaper in Paul Sewald because he goes after Andrés Muñoz? Now, it's not as big of a split. Remember, that was Durán was 16, López was RP 22. This is Muñoz RP 18, Sewald RP 20. How do you play the Seattle situation?
I don't tend to dip my toes into it. I think Andrés Muñoz could be like an elite top 5 closer if he got the job.
But I don't think they're going to commit to him there. I think they want him to be the fireman.
And I think both Sewald and Muñoz are coming off of like either off-season surgeries or off-season injuries. And like, I don't even know if either of them are going to be completely ready to start the season.
Did you learn that in Mining the News?
I did not.
They were both in recent Mining the News.
Okay. Alex Fass had an interview with Paul Sewald on PitchCom.
Yes.
And so I'm just a little skeptical. Plus, I mean, I think this is such a good bullpen. You could see like 4 or 5 different guys be getting saves, and it wouldn't be surprising to me. I'm more than likely, unless one guy really falls in a draft, just not going to end up with a lot of these guys, even though I think Seattle's a really good team and it's a really good spot to pitch.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I've already got some Muñoz, and I think that's probably going to be it that I get just to have a little piece in case he does go crazy, because I agree with you that Muñoz, if given the full-time job, could absolutely be a top 5 guy and just go absolutely berserk. He's a total monster, but I just don't think that they're going to commit to him like that. And thus I want to be careful. I don't want to stock up too much on him and not being able to get saves from a guy that I am using because his strikeouts and ratios are so good. I want those saves. So I totally get that. That's where I feel about Seattle. And I sent you that clip of the Mining the News. Yep. They did both get cleanups. They're expected to be ready for opening day, but we know how those expectations can go. So be careful. Just be smart about it. Don't let your eyes get too big for your stomach there when you're looking at them. Like when you're looking at their stat sheets. I know the 39% strikeout rate for Muñoz is really, really sexy, but just temper yourself. Unless you're in league with me, overdraft the shit out of them. I don't care. No skin off my back. And let's finish off the American League with Texas, which is another job that could be split, but obviously in a much lower level here. Jose LeClerc is RP 19. There's some confidence in him. He came back at the end of the year and looked quite sharp. And then my boy Jonathan Hernández is lurking. He's RP 69, which is pretty nice price. Way late. You don't have to really invest much there. If you did get LeClerc, you can back up your guy pretty easily in like a draft champions. How do you feel about the Texas situation? And don't forget LeClerc, going back to our theories earlier about contracts, he does have a contract. And so he is already getting paid $6 million this year, which again, doesn't guarantee anything, but it is something to at least be aware of because teams like to get as much value as they can. And I think it's not even so much that they like need to quote unquote get value out of it. It's that sometimes they keep guys out of the closer's role because arbitration pays for saves and they don't have to worry about that with LeClerc. So that's more the interest of the contract than anything else. What do you think about Texas between LeClerc and Hernández?
I think it's LeClerc, though I'm going to be very, very careful in terms of like loading up until I see him pitching in spring training. I want to see what his walk rate is in spring training because this is a guy that can walk the yard. I mean, he's got a career 14% walk rate.
That's really rough.
Yeah, that's really, really tough. Now, he doesn't give up home runs, and he gets a lot of strikeouts, and he was fantastic when he came back last year and finished the year as the closer. So, like, those are all things I really like out of a closer. He's going really cheap as well. So I do expect to get a good amount of LeClerc, but if he is, like, really, really wild in spring training, I may start, like, loading up on guys I think could get this role. Jonathan Hernández being one of them. Joe Barlow being another. I think they signed Ian Kennedy too to a non-roster invite deal. He could be another guy that I get interested in. But for right this minute, I think LeClerc is the dude.
Are you okay paying that price once you see LeClerc, if he's good to go and he's not walking everybody, he's just kind of normal closer control issues? Are you okay at RP 19 for LeClerc?
I think so. I mean, I'm hoping by the time we get to RP 19, I've already got 2 closers.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But like, for instance, in this draft where I'm at right now, like I got an early closer, and then I waited way too long and missed out on a lot of guys. Ended up having to I didn't get Daniel Hudds. Oh, I got like Brandon Hughes. So we'll talk about on the Friday pod. But I feel very uncomfortable. I wish I'd gotten Jose LeClerc.
I've done that before too, and I feel so bad because I agree. You kind of waste your stud a little bit. Some people say like, "Oh, I don't have to get a second one because I got the stud." I think you go the other way. You back up your stud, not necessarily with another one. You don't have to get freaking Clase because you got Diaz or even like Ryan Helsley. But I don't know that I want to wait till Brandon Hughes, who we will talk about on
especially
Friday.
in a draft champions, like there's no fab, like you can't
Exactly.
pick anybody up in season. So like you definitely want to hit on a late closer, but you also want to feel like, hey, I've got two guys that I feel pretty confident about, and if hopefully I hit on a third, or if one of these guys do end up falling out, like I'll hit on a third or a fourth, somewhere down the road, but. Like, I don't want to be like, I have to hit on one of these kind of crappy, dart throws. And that's the situation I'm in right now in this league. Like the team otherwise, though.
Yeah. And it was an interesting build that veered from what you normally do, too, which I think is always fun to kind of try something a little bit different, see how it works. We can sometimes get set in our ways. Like, this is how I draft. And it's like, well, there are other ways to win. Let's try something different. So that's a cool draft that you did as it continues on 30 more rounds there. We will talk NL on Friday. Plenty of studs over there to get into as well. Curious how people are attacking closers. So if you want to comment on this on the page or on Twitter at Sporer, at Justin FWFB, excuse me, let us know what you're doing with closer, because in draft champions, I think if you wait too long, it can be tough. You got to spike something. And do you want to pin your hopes on getting lucky? But I also know that some people will get really, really nervous about taking like a second, third, fourth round closer. Yeah. I think if you have never played draft champions and you come in and you see those prices, you're like, what the hell is going on? I'm not paying that crap. And you kind of got to pay that crap if you want to succeed in these leagues. So we'll talk more on Friday. But until then, Justin, have a good one.
Take it easy.